Welcome to NSX-V to NSX-T expert session. Today we have three experts that are going to talk about NSX-V to NSX-T migration. We'll start with introduction. Since I am no expert, so I'll start with my introduction. My name is Monga. I work for VMware based out of Palo Alto, California. Today I have with me Jen, Tuan, and Raymond. Why don't we start with the introduction? Jennifer, ladies first.
Hi everyone, I am Jennifer Schmidt. I am a staff solutions architect based out of Maryland in the US. I work specifically with our NSX-T products on our cloud platform team.
Tuan from technologies team based in Palo Alto. So we're running one of the technical marketing from the B2d program in VMware NSX.
Hey, my name is Raymond Jong. Please call me Ray. I'm based in the Netherlands. In Europe, I'm part of the cloud platforms customer success team, colleague of Jen, and talk to a lot of our customers regarding V.
And these are the experts we're going to be talking about, and they know what they're talking about when it comes to NSX-V to NSX-T. So expert, I want to start with this question that why do an executive think about B2T? What is the use cases for an executive to justify NSX-V to NSX-T migration? And we'll start with Jen.
Sure. So I think one of the more technical reasons why an executive would actually consider this is because the NSX for vSphere is becoming end of support and end of guidance. So the version that's out, the most up-to-date version that's out right now, NSX for vSphere 6.4 will be end of support in about a year and end of tech guidance in 2. There are no new updates coming to NSX-V, no new features or anything like that. And I guess the second reason I really want to focus on too is that, NSX-T will help modernize your networking and security data center. With so many modern applications today running in multiple clouds and making use of different platforms such as containers and virtual machines and bare metal, NSX-T has the ability to address these environments and kind of bring the public cloud experience with you to your private cloud as well.
Yeah, so Tuan, you work with executives, and from technical marketing perspective, what do you think that an executive should consider as a justification for NSX-V to NSX-T?
So there are a lot of considerations, but you start with the simple first, right? The three phases we say is we do the pre and post before you do the real migrations. I'm gonna talk different way to do migration later, but the pre-stage, we do the full assessment. Think about before you do it. We all know that NSX-T had a lot of benefits, but before you do it, how are you gonna migrate from V to T? So the full assessment is the key for your success. So you do the right thing. So we can have PSO, we have a lot of SEs, a lot of way you do it with our partner. We can help you to do the full assessment, right? The second phase, how you execute the plan. We have all the experts, Raymond and Jen can help you much more deep in how you roll out the migration rollout. And the third one, after you do migration, you don't want to finish at this point. You have to roll out all the services with NSX-T and take the full benefit of that. So that's the high level where you should think about before you go with the migration.
Raymond, I know you talk to a lot of executives during day-to-day for B2T migration. Give us your perspective, why an executive should consider justification for NSX-V to NSX-T.
So I think NSX-T as a next generation software-defined networking solution provides improved availability, superior performance and scale, and reduces operational expenses by improving the manageability of the platform as a whole with improved operational tools and metrics to monitor your network. And also, I think automation is key these days. So improved time to market using automation and the API with NSX-T is key to be successful with this solution.
So experts, I know we talked about migration options. Why don't we jump right into it? Tuan, you mentioned it. You'll talk about migration options. Why don't we start with you and give us a little bit about what are the different options that a customer can consider when they are thinking about going from NSX-V to NSX-T?
So we can high level, and then Raymond and Jen go further out in the detail, but the high level, you have the different environments in most of our customers from the legacy world, right? So we have only multiple workload running on your environment. So three type of parent we see a lot. We call that the coexist, and the second one is lift and shift, and the third one is the in place. So I go when the coexist, that means you have the V and you want to have go to T with from the old to the new hardware. right? And then you migrate it. And now the second one is a little bit different with the lift and shift, where you have the same old hardware in V and new hardware in T. You migrate, but the caveat difference between the coexist and lift and shift. The one they call a cattle, the other one they pet. So what is cattle? Cattle is mean you have deployed a new workload to T. Is it coexist, but you don't migrate the whole thing, right? And then the lift and shift, you exactly the opposite, right? You have the old hardware move to new hardware, and you move the whole configuration from old to new. So this is the most used case we see, more or less, is lift and shift. And then the third one is a caveat, is that you use the same and you reuse the same hardware, call it in place. So that means you lift and shift and go back to the same place. So more or less, that's the three use cases we see. Coexist, new workload, lift and shift, different move workload to the new place, and in place with using the same hardware, reusing completely the same infrastructure you have.
Yeah, Raymond, give us a little bit of real world scenarios when it comes to migration.
So regarding lift and shift, we've seen a lot of customers who wanted to migrate using that method, and that's mainly because an in-place migration is perhaps not feasible or not compatible or too impactful. So with lift and shift, you have the option to select certain groups of workloads and as a group migrate them to your new environment, right? So you can do it at your own pace. You can start with, let's say, your test and acceptance workloads and then move on to real production workloads, and give you the opportunity to slowly migrate your environment to NSX-T. Another example with lift and shift is customers using service insertion solutions coming from NSX-V. I've worked with one of those where they had all the firewall configuration in their checkpoint firewall, which was connected with NSX-T. So what that means is that the actual work for migration, meaning the actual updating of firewall rules, was more an effort in that solution instead of NSX-T itself, which just involved moving workloads. And this customer opted for using lift and shift, using the layer 2 bridge solution. So you can create a NSX-T bridge on an NSX-V environment, connect basically the overlay segments coming from NSX-V to NSX-T, and have zero outage on the data plane while you're moving workloads. And at your own convenience or own maintenance window, you can migrate, say, your default gateway on V to a tier 1 router on NSX-T. A different example is the coexist method. One of our customers is a highly automated infrastructure as code customer. And they basically deployed whole data centers using automation. So when they started with NSX-T, and they were actually one of the first customers in Europe starting with NSX-T, they just deployed NSX-T as code on their new pods. And from that point on, they published that pod as an available resources to their DevOps team to consume. That means that, like Tuan said earlier, it's more a kettle-like approach, right? They can easily life cycle their workloads and slowly redeploy them on NSX-T, and then remove a pod from NSX-V and install it as NSX-T again. So they were very flexible in their options to moving to T.
Yeah, but let's hear from you about migration options. What options do they have at their disposal when they consider B2T?
So a lot of my customers as well are using more of the lift and shift migration strategy. The V2T migration coordinator, I've worked with a lot of customers on trying to assess their environment and trying to, work with them to use a migration coordinator, but there are very specific use cases for that. So not everybody always fits that. We see a lot of our customers using Cross vCenter in NSX for vSphere. So a lot of times, that's not compatible with the migration coordinator. So a lot of times that needs to move into a lift and shift strategy. A customer I just worked with actually was using NSX for vSphere and cross VC environment with 4 data centers. And they were using the local egress option there. So what we had to do is kind of break it out into a multi-site environment in NSX-T. And with NSX-T, there's no option for a local egress. So we have to configure and architect it a little differently there. So that lift and shift, kind of side-by-side architecture is really what we see a lot of just because of use cases. So in this case, we set up, a multi-site environment on their NSX-T side. And we kind of talked about their migration doing some things as a cold migration because it might be a little faster and easier for some of their applications where we just kind of move, shut down, have a big outage window, kind of turn off the VMs, move them over to the new data center, put them on NSX-T and bring them back up. That way there's no, bridging going on with gateway over in V and then migrating a gateway over to T. That was acceptable for them just because of the way they use their environment. But, bridging also, like Ray said, is a huge part of our V2T migrations. And we see a lot of customers doing that as well.
Yeah, so we talked about executive justification. We talked about what a manager would consider as an option. So let's talk to our engineers, the people who are hands behind the keyboard. What are the technical plan steps that they would have to consider? And this could be just a high-level list. I'm sure that we can have an all-day session about it. So Jennifer, give us a quick high-level technical plan when an engineer consider for migration.
Like you said, there are a lot of things that we can consider and kind of talk all day about it. But I think from my perspective too, is that the first thing you need to be sure of is that everything that you want to migrate from NSX for vSphere over to NSX-T is actually compatible with NSX-T. Because there are some features that we have in V that are not compatible with T. A lot of them too also being around firewall groups, any kind of vCenter object group that was created in your V environment cannot be created in T because T is independent of vCenter, unlike V. And then another thing that is kind of first on the list to start thinking about is all your hardware and software requirements. Does your hardware work with NSX-T? Is your software up to date? Your vCenter, your vSphere, does all of that commingle with the version of NSX-T that you're looking to go for?
Ray, let's hear from you about if you have to recommend and sit down with the technical team and you're giving them a high-level preparation checklist, what would you put that on the checklist?
So I would have a look at your services in your network as well. So consider what you are doing in NSX-V at the moment. Are you doing netting, firewalling, VPN, load balancing, all that stuff? And see how they would look like in NSX-T. You can start by considering how your topology would look like in NSX-T and how you would be able to place those networking services in your NSX-T environment. Consider available downtime for your workloads. Like I said earlier, some workloads are easy to recycle. Other workloads have special SLAs or special configurations, which you need to consider in terms of when you are able to migrate them and how long they are allowed to be down, if they are even allowed to be down. So that's very important as well.
Tuan, let's hear from you from a BU perspective. I know we hear whispers about something called B2d Assessment. Give us a quick update.
For the B2d assessment, like I said at the beginning, is a very key success for the customer. So we work with the customer. A customer need to work with us as well. So in this assessment, more or less, we're gonna publish very shortly on our website. You can do and fill by your own, right? So that's the idea behind it. Is one click, you have the full assessment, and then we give you the full report. And another click, you go and do the full assessment in your real environment. From there, we take it from there, and the PSO, the partner, or the migration coordinator tools can help you to do the migration. That's the key of the customer success for us. So to do that, we have 4 different sessions in the customer access, just giving a high level. First, we do the full assessment about your infrastructure with what you have, how many VLAN, how many VDS, how many virtual machine, and how many containers, how many virtual machine per host, and all kind of information can be collected in the infrastructure session. And after that, we go to the process. We're gonna order process and operations. So the PSO team, the TAMs, the SCs is gonna help you to do the full assessment at this level. And then the third one, we call it the archive products you use in associate, right? You want to do a migration, not breaking anything already running, or something going to be break and not working exactly when it was in V, right? That's called a CMP process. Have you used VRA? Have you used VCF? Have you used any products? So that might affect the way you do migration, right? So Raymond and Jennifer can go more detail about that, right? So that environment is so important. Not only V2T migration in NSX, but anything surrounding NSX that make you successfully much more compelling when you do correctly the assessment. That's the 2 sessions. And the first one and the 4th one go more detail into the workload what you really have, what you want to have in the futures after the migration. So as you do the underlay, what anything in the BGP, L2, L3 VPN, SSN, VPN, all kind of thing, services you're running underneath related to NSX. And the fourth one more at the high level, which is microsegmentation, DFW you currently using in V, how you're going to be migrated in T, and associated with that any new services like IDPS, NSX installation, thing you want to use in the futures, which we already have in NSX 3.1 and 3.0, all kind of thing. Right, to recap the 4 sessions, the infrastructure, the process, all of the services running on top, either underlay, overlay, or any kind of services you think to be using in the future.
Tuan, let me ask you a rhetorical question. I know we get this a lot. Do you think there's a magic process, magic tool, or magic product that can just bring V to T overnight and everything will work smoothly? Is there a thing?
That's the goal, right? So the tool migration coordinator get improving and more features coming, but there's no magic portion, to be honest, at the current stage, right? So then we need to roll out a lot of new features in T, right? So depends on the use case. We can go further down in the second question you want, but depends on the use case. Like we said at the beginning, if you are in place, right, what would be the migration coordinator? Maybe the best magic portion for you. But like Raymond mentioned, there's not so many customers using in place because it's so simple. In production, you have much more thing than just the in place solution. So the lift and shift in the greenfield is perfectly fit for that, right? But not so many people have greenfield. If they have legacy field, all the workloads, or even brownfield, half and half, thing like that, that you're gonna need to consider any solution with PSO. Work with us and using different tools. We have tools like Verni Network Insight also collect all the information for the assessment, right? And working with partner, we have a couple of partners on the list. You can check it out. REST, NSX, CI Topaz from SPJ, and those other partners, those good and do assessment as well. Depends on the use case. And then the PSO, that's strongly recommending using our PSO.
So experts, my question is, so far I know we talked a lot about it, and there's a lot to know for B2T migration from executive level, from director level, manager level, engineer level. Raymond, why don't you give us a quick update on where do we go about educating ourselves? So people like me who are not expert on B2T, and I know some of our customers are in the same boat like me. Where do we go and start our education if we want to educate ourselves, train ourselves, or?
If you have the opportunity, definitely build a proof of concept environment to get, as an engineer, your experience hands-on with the product. Try to build a topology which looks similar to the topology you use in NSX-V. NSX-T is a lot of advanced features and a very much bigger product in terms of what you can do and how you can deploy it in terms of scale. So you need to be ready to operate that product in your production environment. So a proof of concept environment gives you that opportunity to get that experience. And furthermore, you can look at training and enablement. So you may want to look at VMworld sessions. You may want to look to official VMware training to get trained on the product and the technology and to be ready.
Yeah, Jennifer, give us your insights if you're recommending someone how to get trained.
So I definitely agree with everything that Ray said. You know, the best way you're going to learn is building this out in a lab or building out a POC or something like that, if you have the opportunity to do that. If you don't have the opportunity for a lab, you know, our hands-on labs is a great tool. We have the HOL 2126, which is all of our NSX-T products, and that one keeps growing. I think there's about 3 different labs in the 2126 just for NSX-T. I believe there's even NSX-T with Kubernetes in there. You know, that keeps on expanding. So, you know, it's a great way to get hands-on if you don't have a physical lab of your own. And then also there is the HOL 2103-02, which is the NSX-T migration coordinator. So you can go ahead and use that and see how the migration coordinator actually works and get hands-on if the migration coordinator tool is something that you're interested in for your V2T environment. You know, it's a great way to kind of run through it and see how it goes and see, you know, the logic behind it and, you know, what's happening at every stage.
And for those of you who are not familiar with the VMware hands-on labs, you'll see that in the show notes right here. You can click on the link and they'll point you to our hands-on labs. Here comes the free plug. I know, Jennifer, you are the co-captain or captain of 2103 migration coordinator, right?
Yes, that's right.
All right. So I also co-captain, co-author 21206, all three labs, 01, 02, 03. 01 actually focuses on networking only. 02 focuses on security, and 03 is all about automation and Kubernetes. So as Jennifer mentioned, if you're trying to learn more about the product NSX-T, and if you don't have resources or lab time on your own, definitely encourage you to consider hands-on labs. Last, why don't we move to Tuan? Tuan, tell us from your side, what would you recommend if someone is trying to get educated on B2T and just on the migration steps or learning experiences, what we can offer from VMware side?
3 hands-on labs is great stuff for everyone, right? And be prepared with all the tech zones, nsx.techzone.vmware and / NSX B2T. There are a ton of resources we posted there from VMware and from partners. And one thing I want to mention, you want to understand very well NSX-T is helping you a lot in the journey along the line. So not only the hands-on lab, the 3 hands-on lab, we have the hands-on lab for any product related, right? And, like Carbon Black, you want to endpoints, so you go with NSX Intelligence and things like that. And that also help RV network, so for NSX Advanced Load Balancers. And then the assessment, again, I want an assessment for V, now assessment for T. We have a ton of Odyssey's game, which is NSX game challenging. So we have the basic level with RV network event load balancers. And we have NSX DFW Odyssey, plus the advanced one with IDPS, like Victor just mentioned. So that gives you the full assessment from end to end. That's one thing, right? The second thing, talk with the expert, right? Talk with folks like us and help you to do the journey much more smoother, much more agile and thing you can do. And I see a trend that people tend to wait until the last minute, which is to do the migration for XYZ reason. Don't consider that, but features keep rolling out. We keep doing things and make sure you just be on the trend. We here, VMware, the full product management team, the full SE, the full TAM, ton of people are here to help you. So that help you to go to key success for the journey.
That's an excellent point that we do see this myth in field here among our customers that NSX-T is still building more features. And that's true. We are going to continue evolving the product because the requirements from our customers are also changing. They now want to have enhanced security. So we introduce NSX IDPS in NSX-T. They want to have NSX Intelligence. So the new features doesn't stop you to start migration today. That's like for any product, any solution, any tool you have in your environment. The last question I want to wrap up with this, experts, if you consider or if you want to recommend our customers, when is a good time to start B2T? And I think, Tuan, you touched upon that. So why don't we start with Raymond?
Any customer should start right now. There's nothing holding you back to get started with migration. First, what we said earlier, look at your environment, educate yourself, be aware of your workloads, read documentation in the sense of the migration coordinator, and try to test it upfront, develop workbooks if you need them, test your first migration. If you have an account team, you can reach out to them as well for support and how we can support you. If you run, let's say, into an issue, or you can call our GSS team if you need additional features. We also like to hear from you what you miss in let's say, the migration coordinator as a feature, and we can definitely put that on the roadmap if it's not already there, or at least discuss it with internal engineering. So yeah, we would say get started, prepare, test that environment if possible, and get going.
And audience, listen to these experts. They know what they're talking about. They've gone through the pain. They have also made success stories with our customers from our B2T migration. Tuan, give us your perspective, and you already talked about it. When is a good start? When is a good time to start B2T migration?
That's the time, right? I would say the product. Why? Because the NSX-T is completely very, very mature in the year when we roll out NSX 3.0, NSX-T 3.0. Now 3.1 coming along already this year, and a lot of new features coming in 3.2, 3.3, whatever you call it. And that's a great thing. We're just migrating to the new version. It's easy to roll out. As soon as you're in 3.x, it's easy to move around, and then a ton of features waiting for you: container, multi-cloud, think about all of the solutions. You have IDPS and integration with the NSX, last line, RV, load balancer, a ton of things. You can have the full benefit, and no doubt. So that's the best time to do that, and take the full benefit. And I see the trend is some concerns. I've been talking about customer and across the APJ in Europe, America as well. The thing that is concerned are a lack of parity feature between V and T at certain point, right? We do have a plan for that, like such as OSPF, not there, but it will come in the next 3.1 in a month or 2 months from now. You can see that all kind of gap gonna get closer. That's the best time you go. And as soon as you roll out in 3.1 and everything gonna just add in on top of that, and you get back to where you were. It's very easy. That's the thing. And yeah, in the meantime, you take full benefit already. Don't wait until next year or next month. That's the time.
All right, Jennifer, we started the session with you, so we'll wrap it up with this question from you. When is a good time to start B2T migration? What would you recommend to our customers?
On top of everything that Ray and Tuan said, my answer really is well before you want to actually migrate. B2T does take a lot of preparation and planning, and I don't want that to scare anybody off, but if you want it to be successful, you really need to prepare, get educated, and plan it as well as you can. Because in order to be successful, you want to know all the gotchas and the knowns and how you're going to move from B to T. So that's my answer for that one. Just, you can't just say, hey, we're going to do B to T today and just start working on it, and expect, Monday decide to do it and Friday have it migrated. That's not going to happen. So just want to make sure that everybody's well aware of that.
Well, experts, Jen, Ray, Tuan, thank you very much for your time today. Our listeners learned a lot, and I'm sure all of these insights, they will start considering it today if you have not started it. So B2T is the future. Please start considering it.